Bismillah-ir-Rahman-ir-Rahim. Once upon a time in sacred unity there was a boy, and this boy had nothing save the clothes upon his back and the love of his mother. And every day he would herd the buffalo up the dry, sandy, rocky path, sure-footed, barefooted, beneath a sky that knew no clouds, like the face of a woman who knows no grief or sorrow. He would look over into the distance, the Kashmiri mountains a mere smudge, and up the rocky, sandy hillside he would go, sure-footed, barefooted. And there in the lush green places, him and the other boys would wash the buffaloes. And when the buffaloes were clean and munching on the lush green grass, all the boys would sit down in a circle, all hunkered down like I am right now. And they'd all peer forward and look at our friend, like I'm looking at you. And they'd say, "Go on then, Mohammed, tell us a story." And so he told them the story that I'm about to tell you. He told them the story, there on the riverbank beneath a sky that knew no clouds, the story of the boy who wanted a drum. Once upon a time in sacred unity there was a boy who had nothing save the clothes upon his back and the love of his mother. And every week his mother would go into market, and every week she would say to him, "Son, is there anything that you want?" Now he knew full well that they barely had the things that they needed, let alone the things that they wanted, and so he never said it. He kept it in. And we all know what it's like when we keep something in. Weeks, months, even years, but eventually one day it came out. "Is there anything that you want, my son?" And he said, "Mother, I want a drum." Because in the village, when someone is born, the drummers come and they play a new rhythm to signify a life coming into the world. When people are married in sacred unity, they play two different rhythms, like two different rivers of music coming together. When someone leaves this world, taking that last breath and not knowing where they're going, they play the song of a life. Mother, when I grow up, I want to be one of those men. Mother, I want a drum. So his mother went to market. And she was able to buy all the things that they needed, just about, but not the things that they wanted. And on the way back, she saw on the dusty path a stick, as white as lightning and just as lean. She picked it up and she took it home and she gave it to her son. And he said, "Thank you, alhamdulillah." And he began running sure-footed, barefooted on the dry path, past the mangoes that grew like suns, past the fields of okra and flowers, so many flowers, the smell full and ripe in his nose. And he ran beneath a sky that knew no clouds, like the face of a woman who knows no sorrow or grief. And he turned a corner, but he knew what he was going to see before he got there, because he'd heard the baby crying for miles. The baby's face was red with crying, tears streaking down her face like comets, and we all know what that's like. The boy said, "Whatever is the matter?" And the mother indicated the basket full of beautifully colourful shawls at her feet and said, "I was going to take these to market to sell, but with a baby crying like this, we have got nowhere." And the boy, he gripped the stick in his hand, and he did the first silly thing he could think of. He began to play that stick upon his foot. And the baby stopped crying for about a second, so he played it on the other one. And he played it on his knees, up his legs, up his arms, and onto his head, and the baby was smiling and laughing and gurgling now. Job done. And so he turned to go, but as he turned to go, the baby reached out one big chubby hand and went and began to cry again. And our friend, he turned to the baby and he said, I wanted to drum, but my mum gave me a stick. This is all I have in the whole wide world. But right now, my friend, it seems to me that you need this more than I do. And it is freely given. And the stick went from the boy's hand to the baby's hand, from the baby's hand to the baby's mouth. She chewed on it a bit, she dribbled. Well, she was a baby. And she fell fast asleep. And as the boy was turning to go, the mother said, wait, I have something for you. And she took one of those beautifully colourful shawls, a red one, as red as the setting sun. She put it around his shoulders, tied it gently, tenderly at the throat, just like a mother would. And she said, this is all I have in the whole wide world. But right now it seems to me, my friend, that you need it more than I do. And it is freely given. And the boy thanked her. Alhamdulillah. And he ran on. And on he ran, past the mangoes, past the fields of okra, beneath a sky that knew no clouds, barefooted, sure-footed, and he turned a corner, and there was a ditch. And in that ditch was an old man dressed in rags with wild, staring eyes. And the boy looked down at the man and he said, Uncle, whatever is the matter? And the old man said, some brigands, some thieves came. They stole my clothes, they stole my belongings, and now I am too scared and too ashamed to come out of this ditch. And the boy's hands were at the knot at his throat before he'd even thought of it. And the knot was undone. And he took that shawl off his shoulders and he put it around the old man's shoulders, tied it gently at his throat. This is all that I have in the whole wide world, said the boy. But right now, my friend, it seems to me that you need it more than I do. And it is freely given. The old man came out of the ditch, hauled the cloak around himself. And he smiled at the boy and he said, those brigands, those thieves, they were many things, but they were not quick enough for my most prized possession. And he took two knotted, twisted, gnarled old fingers, he put them to his lips and he blew. And you should be grateful that I can't whistle like that man can. Because if I could, your ears would be popping right now. And round the corner came. Oh, it was so beautiful. In the sunlight, the mane was like gold. In the sunlight, the hooves were like silver. As white as lightning and just as lean, a horse, galloping along the dry, dusty road towards them and stopping by them. And the old man took the reins of the horse and he put them into the boy's hands and he said, this is all that I own in the whole wide world. As white as lightning and just as lean. But right now, my young friend, it seems to me that you need it more than I do. And it is freely given. And the boy thanked the old man. Alhamdulillah. And he turned and he began to run, but he was not alone. The boy and the horse running as one, galloping along the path towards the next adventure. The boy and the horse, galloping beneath a sky that knew no clouds, the mangoes, the okra, so many flowers, and they came to the banyan grove, where the tree grew in and out of the ground, and there in the banyan grove were musicians, but all of their instruments lay on their laps like dead things. And the boy tethered the horse. He went to one of the musicians and he asked him what was the matter. And the musician said, We are the musicians who are supposed to play for the wedding, but the man who is meant to bring the horse that the groom will ride on has not arrived. Without the horse there will be no procession, without the procession there will be no music, with no music there will be no wedding. And the boy said, "Where is the groom?" And the musician said, "If you travel to the very heart of the banyan grove, you will see the most well-dressed but saddest man you have ever seen. He is the groom. And he knows that there will be no wedding today." And so the boy, he took the reins of the horse, but he did not need to hold the reins. And the horse and the boy, they walked through the banyan grove, looking for the most well-dressed but saddest man that they had ever seen. And so the boy and the horse travelled to the very centre, to the very heart of the banyan grove, where the trees grew in and out of the earth and up into the sky. And there, the musician had been true to his word, was the most well-dressed but saddest looking man that either of them had ever seen. Obviously the groom. And the reins went from the boy's hand to the groom's hand. And the boy said, "My mum, she gave me a stick, and now I have a horse. And this is all that I own in the whole wide world. But right now, my friend, it looks to me as if you need this more than I do. And it is freely given." And the groom was upon the horse in a second, and all the musicians up on their feet, their instruments singing into life. And each musician played the song of their heart as they came alongside the boy. And they were all beautiful, until the line came to an end and there was one last musician, his instrument hanging from a strap around his neck, his fingers thrumming the rhythm of his heart upon the skin of an animal. And when he saw the boy, pitter, patter, patter, pitter, pitter, patter, patter, he stopped playing. He looked straight into the boy's eyes, and his hands were at the strap around his neck before he'd even thought about it. "My friend," said the drummer, "this is all that I have in the whole wide world. But right now it seems to me that you need it more than I do. And it is freely given." And the strap went from his neck over his head, through the air, over the boy's head and around his neck. And the boy took the drum. He thanked the drummer, Alhamdulillah. And on to his feet he got, and he began playing and playing and playing. And his mother, in fact, the whole village heard him coming. And in the days and weeks and months and seasons, long and hot in that place, the boy learnt to play the rhythm of his heart upon the skin of the drum. And when people were born, he would play a new melody to signify and to celebrate a new life. When people were married, two rivers of song coming together, becoming one. When people took their final breath, not knowing where they would go next, he would play a melody to celebrate a life, a melody sweet enough, gentle enough, kind enough to shake the tears free. My friends, he became what he had always wanted to be. He became a drummer. And that, said the boy to the boys at the riverbank, is the end of that story. And so they took their buffaloes back down the dusty hillside, barefooted, sure-footed, and they went on their way home. And that is the end of that story.